And if you want, you can bring up the participants list. You can see who's joining.
Oh,
Hi, everyone. Welcome. We'll begin momentarily. I see a lot of familiar names. They've been joining other sessions. Welcome back. And if you want, we would like to know where you're viewing us from. Can you open up the chat window and go ahead and enter where you're watching from? Okay, Lynn, Martha, you see that?
mm-hmm.
Yep, good. Okay, I'll wait just one more minute in case anyone's a little bit late, and then we'll start. All right. People sort of slowed down joining, so I'm going to go ahead and get started and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for the presentation, Thinking Tools in Community Problem Solving. I'm Debbie Pruno, the Administrative Director for Future Problem Solving Program International. As you can see, we will be using the chat feature, and to let you know, questions will be taken at the end of the presentation. We are recording the presentation as well, and we will post a link to it on our Facebook page after this is done. And now I'd like to welcome Martha Barlow and Lynn Buckmastser, co-affiliate directors for the, for the Wisconsin Future Problem Solving Program.
Thank you, Deb. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, welcome to everyone. As Deb mentioned, we are going to be talking about thinking tools that can be used in community problem solving. All of the tools we'll be showing today with examples, and those examples are from actual projects that students have worked on in the community problem solving program. Okay, this slide shows you the problem solving process and as it's used in community problem solving. So the process frequently can be divided into 3 general areas: understanding the challenge, and then generating ideas, and then preparing for action. So under understanding the challenge, in community problem solving, you will be developing an area of concern. I'm thinking some of you probably are at this because you've already done this, okay? And then identify challenges and select an underlying problem to focus where you want your energies to go. Once you've gotten there, you would have perhaps many solution ideas. And then preparing for action, it's important to evaluate those solution ideas in order to develop your action plan. And the wonderful thing about community problem solving is that you actually put that plan into reality. I mentioned the 3 components of understanding the challenge, generating ideas, and preparing for action. Global issues, community problem solving, and basically any problem solving process that you could find out there can be divided into those same general areas. So this just gives you an example, excuse me, of how that works. Lynn?
The rationale for using thinking tools is that so that students understand the problem solving process as it applies to community problem solving, and that they can use those steps flexibly as they work through their project. And it's also so that students can experience the many creative and critical thinking tools that support the problem solving work that is done in community problem solving. There are 2 basic types of tools that we use. The generating tools are the more creative thinking types of tools. You're doing more divergent thinking, you're producing new and original ideas. There's typically more than one answer. And your goal is to get as many ideas as possible. And while you're generating them, there's no judgment, there's no criticism, you're just trying to think of as many as possible. It's a more intuitive type of process. Focusing tools are more critical thinking, You're doing convergent thinking, you're analyzing and comparing and evaluating. There's fewer right ideas because your goal is to come to a decision. There's a lot of judgment that you're making and reflection, and it's a more ordered type of thinking. The publication that we're basing all of the tools we're going to share with you is called Creative and Critical Thinking Tools for Community Problem Solving. It's available at FPSPI.org. This is a list of the tools that are in the publication, and we're going to go through lots of these today. For each tool, there is a page that has instructions on how to use the tool. There is a page that shows a sample that was generated by students, and then there is a blank worksheet for you to use.
Okay, so we're going to start with develop an area of concern, where with your students you are looking at, okay, what are the possible opportunities in our school, maybe our town or city, our region, our state, okay, our country, or even the world. And so sometimes it's not immediately obvious what you would like to work on. This tool helps you think through a number of those. The tool is called Plus Minus Interesting, PMI. And so here you would look at multiple potential areas for your area of concern, and you would analyze them using those three buzzwords. Here's some examples, okay, of students who actually used this process. They were looking at green living, tutoring students, relationship violence, or cyber safety. So as an example, in the plus column, okay, they would say, you know, kids have more and more access to the internet with smartphones, so this is a really important area that we might address. A minus is a lot may depend on parents using safety protocols on their kids' devices. So from that point of view, if we take this on as a project, okay, would we be able to have the impact that we want? An interesting question or comment is like, what types of activities on the internet are not safe? Okay, probably the students do some of them, but they might investigate to find out more of those. Let's look at tutoring students. We're pretty sure there's elementary students who need help, and it would be fun. That's a plus. The minus, well, will we have time with all of our classes and co-curricular activities to actually do this? Interesting, what areas of tutoring is needed the most, and do they match our actual talents? So this is a way to, as I said, analyze a variety of different areas in order to help you decide what you want to address. So we're gonna give that a try now, using plus minus interesting for the food waste topic. So in the chat, I would like you to start generating ideas for pluses for the food waste topic. What would be the positives? Positive reasons for us to address this, or positives that could come out of addressing this. And if you could type some of your ideas in the chat, then Lynn will share those with me, and we'll put a few of them up here.
It could help a lot of people. It could help the soil wherever it goes. There's probably more food waste now that people are at home. Could save resources. Influence others not to waste food.
Okay, let's stop there and let's go over to the minus column. Thank you for your ideas there to share. So let's see if people can come up with some things that would be, why it would be difficult for us to address this topic, or, you know, why it might not be the best idea.
People might not be willing to change their habits. It's hard to get the message out. Tracking the data might be hard. Difficult to make long-term changes. Others might already be addressing this topic.
Okay, and while I type this last one, let's switch over to interesting.
It may have a great impact on large cities. Learn new ways to put food to use. Find out who will be more likely to donate. Could we influence schools and grocery stores as well as families?
Okay, we'll stop there. Thanks for your ideas. That's wonderful. So you can see, you know, how with students to really take a look, okay, about this. Now you wouldn't do it with just one. We've just used one, okay, as our sample. You would be looking primarily at multiple topics with the students, as we did here, to help them kind of think about which area they wanted to take a look at. Another tool in the area of concern is called WIBI to WIBNI. We're just going to talk about this one and not practice it. WIBI stands for wouldn't it be awful if, and WIBNI stands for wouldn't it be nice if. So some examples from a student project where their area of concern was services for veterans. The first job was to think, wouldn't it be awful if? And some of their things were, my dad had suffered mentally because of being in the world. Wouldn't it be awful if my brother came back and couldn't get help for PTSD? Wouldn't it be awful if veterans can't find new jobs when they return? Wouldn't it be awful if more vets ended up homeless? Now, you can just do these without these categories, okay? But if the categories are helpful, home and family, social and friends, at school or workplace, okay, sometimes they can help to expand your thinking. So the categories can be used, but they're not required. The next step is like, wouldn't it be nice if? Wouldn't it be nice if veterans got free education? Wouldn't it be nice if there was a big ceremony to honor them on Veterans Day in our community? Okay. Wouldn't it be nice if no vet ever became homeless? Wouldn't it be nice if they got all the help they needed? And then what you do next is take a look at your WIBIs, your awfuls, and see if you can turn them into WIBNIs or nice. You might have already done some of that on this chart here, but here's an example of, okay, my brother, wouldn't it be awful if my brother came back from Afghanistan and couldn't get help for PTSD? You turn that into a wouldn't it be nice if my brother got free counseling for that? Going down a little bit, wouldn't it be awful if veterans can't find new jobs when they return? Turn that into a WIBNI. Wouldn't it be nice if veterans were guaranteed a job when they return? And this can help you to delve into more depth in your area of concern and look at all the wouldn't it be nice ifs to see, are there things in there that we are capable of addressing? So that's another analysis tool for your area of concern. Right, I will stop sharing and Lynn's going to take over.
No.
No? Oh, sorry, I got one more screen. We'll get this right. Yeah, okay. All right, this is the screen that I forgot, sorry. So we've taken a look at developing an area of concern. We've looked at two of the thinking tools, plus minus interesting and WIBI and WIBNI. And there are 4 additional tools in the publication that can all help you to examine your area of concern and make decisions about that. And now, Lynn will take over.
Okay, we're going to move into identifying challenges. What you want to do is identify a variety of challenges that are related to your area of concern. Focusing on the most important elements of the situation, you want to look at it from different points of view, and also consider what you already need to know and what you already know, what you need to know, and what you want to know to understand the various challenges. So attribute listing is a tool that you can use to generate many potential challenges related to your area of concern. So you identify 3 to 4 major elements of your object or location, whatever. You use each attribute as a heading, and you can create subheadings if it makes sense. And for each main heading, you generate related challenge ideas. So this is a generating tool. So we're going to give it a try with the area of concern that a park near the school has fallen into disrepair. And so the attributes we're looking at is playground equipment. Specifically, we were noticing that it's broken, obsolete, and unsafe. We're looking at facilities. We're noticing there's poor lighting, inadequate signage, and poor parking areas. And looking at appearance, that it's run down, poorly maintained, and there's a lot of trash. So we're going to use the chat feature again. And if you...
Your Word doc?
Oh, I'm sorry. So what challenges can you think? We're just going to first focus on the playground equipment. So think of the challenges that might be faced with this broken, obsolete, unsafe playground equipment.
Children could get hurt. It might be costly to repair or replace the equipment. Students with disabilities may not be able to access the equipment. It might not be fun. Children might not have a place to play with their friends.
Okay, we could go on and on and on, and you know, your goal would be to see how many of these you could generate. Let's focus next on the facilities that have the poor lighting, the inadequate signage, and the poor parking areas. What challenges can you think of for the facilities?
Hard to see things, especially later in the day. People might not want to go there. Reduces accessibility. People might not feel safe, feeling like it's a shady place. There could be car accidents if there's not enough parking.
Okay, that one. We'll go on to the next one. Let's focus now on the appearance, the rundown look, the poorly maintained equipment, overgrown grass and weeds, and trash everywhere. What challenges?
Uninviting.
Oops, what the heck?
There might be a lot of pests and animals. It could lend itself to vandalism. Some people might be allergic to the grass and weeds. It might smell.
Okay, and I'm sure that you can think of lots more challenges. So thanks again for your ideas. So that just gives you an idea of taking something apart, looking at its different attributes, and that can help you to get more ideas as well. Oh, geez. Okay. Here are some of the things that students thought of about the broken equipment that you mentioned: injury, not wanting to return, children won't enjoy using old and obsolete equipment even if it's working. For the facilities, maybe not be able to locate it. You thought of attracting criminals and vandals, and might not want to drive their cars because they might be damaged. As far as the appearance, an unappealing appearance may just cause people to turn around and drive away, tell others to stay away, and you thought of the last one, attracting animals. Another tool is called focusing on challenges. This tool has 2 charts, and you complete both of the charts. You use the results to determine which challenges to address in your project, and if you have many challenges, you divide them into sets. So we're just going to look at this one. This was about the area of concern for healthy lifestyles. And so chart 1, for each challenge idea, you're asking how important it is. Is it earth-shaking, moderate, or low? How big of an issue is it? Do you think it's huge, regular, or small? How soon must we act? We should have acted yesterday, or soon, or anytime. And if no action is taken, how will it change? It'll get worse, stay the same, or get better. So you can just take a look. For example, misconception regarding the cost of healthy food. They thought this was of low importance. They thought it was kind of a regular issue. They thought that you could start working on it any time. And if they didn't take any chances, they thought it would still stay the same. So just by asking these questions, it helps guide you to whether you think this is a real possible area for you to consider in your project. The other chart focuses on, can I or we act on it? And next, do I or we want to? And third, do I or we need new ideas? So you can see obesity is a national concern. They thought maybe they could act on it, but they didn't want to. So that's why there's a dash here. For number 4, misconception regarding cost of healthy food. They thought they could act on it, and that's a perhaps that they wanted to, and they would need new ideas. So this one had yeses all the way across. So that might indicate that that particular issue would be a good focus for their project. So to identify challenges, we examine the tools of attribute listing and focusing on challenges. An additional tool to try that's in the publication is the cross-impact matrix. And I'm going to stop sharing.
Okay, we will move on to thinking tools that you can use when you're working on your underlying problem. And occasionally there are community problem solving teams and individuals that aren't as familiar with this step, okay, as global issues problem solving kids are. So it's one that you can sometimes need some help with. You're looking for a major issue, okay, coming out of your challenges, and you're trying to think of how might we, and the goal, action goal, what do you want to accomplish? Instead of saying, oh, we can't do this because. So the first tool we're going to look at is called Hits and Hotspots. So this tool helps you to analyze a big list of challenges, okay, and you have individuals without talking to each other identify, okay, of this big list of challenges, which are hits for them. And you organize the challenges into clusters that are called hotspots, and you look for the hotspots that have the most hits. So what is a hit? An idea might be a hit for you for any of these reasons, and you can see them, okay? Somehow speaks to you, okay, or it's exciting. It just feels right, okay? It's pretty clear or it's relevant. And then hotspots is you group things together, okay, challenges together that have a similar element. You create clusters. So we're going to give it a try by using a poll. Now, Debbie is going to start the poll for us, and what we want you to do is read through the list of challenges in the poll that are related to the elderly. Be sure to scroll down because there are 9 challenges and we want you to see them all. What we want you to do is click on 4 of them, just 4, don't click on any more than that. Ideas that seem most important to you, are key issues, or have a personal connection. When you finish clicking your 4, make sure you scroll to the bottom and click submit. So we'll take a couple of minutes for people to work on this.
Martha and Lynn, It has been requested that people get a copy of the PowerPoint. Can I go ahead and, would that be all right?
Sure.
Make it available?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. We'll have a, yes, no, we'll have a link afterwards.
Okay.
Thanks.
We didn't get the numbers on these answers, so you guys are going to have to count through them.
Okay.
Okay, just over half have completed.
Okay. We'll give another minute or so. Okay, I haven't seen additional answers being submitted, so maybe this would be a good time to end the poll. So Debbie is sharing the results, and we will be, while we are talking about this slide, Lynn will be adding up the hits for numbers 1, 4, and 8. Debbie for 3, 6, and 9, and Lynn for 2, 5, and 7. So the students who worked on this categorized their hits into 3 hotspots: respect for the elderly, social interaction, and generation gap. Now, their actual examples, they had a lot more, okay, challenges, and so they didn't just have 3 in each of these hotspots, but these were the.
Uh-oh. We froze up.
Okay, Lynn, you're still live, so Martha may be having some
Martha.
trouble.
So I'm doing 2, 5, 7.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Uh-oh.
Oh. Hopefully Martha will be trying to get back in right now.
So too.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing the results. Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me pull up the document that she was going to share. Okay, the problem is, oh, here she comes. All right.
I have to make sure she's okay, she is. Okay, welcome back, Martha.
Okay, thank you. So I was sharing my screen. Just hang on a second. Okay, can you see my screen now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all you participants, we apologize. So these were the 9 challenges that you were taking a look at, do we have a total number of hits for 1, 4, and 8?
22.
Okay. What about social interaction?
I'm sorry, 33.
Okay. And generation gap?
43.
Okay. So in this one, then you might take a look at generating an underlying problem for generation gap and maybe for social interaction, okay, as well. But this helps you to take your challenges and to organize them, see which speak the most to your team, to help you think about, okay, what direction should we go with our underlying problem? Here's a possible underlying problem for that social interaction one, okay? Because older residents may lack regular visitors and the younger generation may be losing a connection to them, how might we increase the social interaction between youth and the elderly in our community so that both generations will have positive experiences with the other? Okay, so that's hits and hotspots. Another tool that can help you with your the key verb phrase part of your underlying problem is called dancing with words. With this tool, you start with a key verb phrase, the how might we part of your underlying problem. Then you generate other possibilities for the verb and object, and mix and match. So here's what that might look like. How might we increase student involvement in volunteer activities? First, let's look for alternatives for increase. Now, these two columns are separate. You're not trying to match them across at first, okay? So some alternatives for the verb would be create, develop, enhance, enable, expand, and so forth. Some alternatives for student involvement in volunteer activities could be number of volunteers, the groups served, leadership skills, ages of the students, okay, that kind of thing. Once you get pretty good list for the verb and another list for the object, then you can mix and match these, okay? Let's say strengthen leadership skills for volunteers, or expand the ages of students who volunteer, or expand just the number of volunteers. So you can mix and match a lot of these, and then you can look at these that are all around the same basic area of concern and think which one, okay, really communicates the action goal that we want to accomplish with our project. So for underlying problem, we've looked at two tools, hits and hotspots, that helps you to take a big list of challenges and organize it with hits and hotspots so you can think, where do we want to focus our underlying problem? And dancing with words, that helps you to play around with the key verb phrase. Another tool that's in the publication is called improvement goals, also about underlying problem. Okay, there we go. All right, Lynn.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to producing solution ideas. You want to generate a variety of ways to improve the area of concern by addressing your action goal in the underlying problem. Use flexible and insightful thinking to identify as many relevant and promising possibilities as you can, and reflect on research and investigation of the area of concern. So the first tool we're going to talk about is called SCAMPER. It's a form of checklisting where you use a checklist to trigger ideas that you associate with things in the checklist. SCAMPER is a checklist where each letter represents a different possibility, and you generate ideas for each of the letters in any order and as many as you want. So S is for substitute, one thing in place of another. C is for combine. A is for adapt, adjust to a situation or purpose. M can be for modify, magnify, or minimize. You can alter or change the form or quality. You can make something bigger, smaller. Put to other uses, using for purposes other than the one originally intended. You can eliminate something, and you can reverse or rearrange. Place opposite or contrary to the original position, turn things around, change the order, and so forth. Here's an example of one for how can we scamper a clothes hanger to come up with a way to improve it. So we could, for substitute, put a round hoop instead of a triangle to throw beanbags through. Combine two hangers together with twist ties for a stronger hanger. For magnify, double the size, push it into a square, use it for a picture frame, eliminate, cut the bottom off to save money in production, and so on. So it's just a way to generate lots of ideas. So we're going to try a SCAMPER activity where we're going to focus on ways we might improve the physical environment of our school so that it is a more appealing place to learn, work, and visit. So you're going to use your chat feature again. And up here again, I have what we're focusing on: improve the physical environment of our school so that it's a more appealing place to learn, work, and visit. Now you can start with any one of these. You don't have to go in order. And when you respond using the chat, if you would, if you're doing an adapt idea, if you would just put a dash and then your idea, or if it's a put to other uses idea, P dash with your idea, then we'll know where to put it in the chart. So we'll give you a couple of minutes to chat some ideas.
Okay, substitute is one. Okay, work outside, I'm assuming, instead of inside the building. Combine. Mix lots of fun with learning. Adapt. Change wall colors or seating offerings. Substitute, replace older desks and chairs with newer ones. Also substitute, get rid of the desks and bring in carpets and beanbags. Eliminate, unnecessary testing. Minimize. Minimize non-hands-on activities. Combine, mix lunch and recess together.
What was that one? Combine?
Lunch and recess together. Adapt, add interesting things in the classroom. Fish tanks, colors, posters. Maximize, make it a bigger place. Magnifying the part of partner or teamwork. Let me see, eliminate. Eliminate boring books and already used items.
Anyone have something for put to other uses?
I haven't seen anything yet. Let me see.
Or reverse or rearrange?
Eliminate homework. I don't see that either. Okay. Modify, work to be more individualized, which could also be under adapt, they said. Put to other uses. Take areas of the building and add more fun to them. Put to other uses. Use the gym for large classes so they feel less cramped. I don't see any R's, but that's.
Okay, so you get the idea. So good ideas. It just helps you focus your mind in ways that you may not have thought of previously. Okay. Another tool that you can use, especially when you're running out of ideas, are forced relationships. And this is where you take random words or pictures or lists, and you make a forced connection, a creative connection between the word and the picture and a solution idea. For example, you get a number of pictures. A Band-Aid might remind me to cover something up. So if we had water pipes that were showing in the field or the playground by school, we might cover them up with flowers. Or a list of holidays for the 4th of July might remind us of bright, vibrant fireworks. And so we might think of painting the walls of the school with bright, vibrant colors. Here's an example of some ideas that kids came up with for increasing opportunities for social interaction between elders and teens to better establish mutual understanding. This is just a portion of the things that they used. So the motorcycle made them think they could provide transportation to take elders to social functions. The book, they could interview elders about their life experiences and compile and write up a book for the library. The flag, somebody thought of Betsy Ross, and they could have a sewing club for the elderly. Or the clock, make a schedule where one teen meets with one elderly person once a week to help with something. So when I worked with kids, I had cards, I called them idea cards, and they just had pictures. Each card had a picture, and we would pull those out all the time when we were trying to think of ideas. And it's just a nice way to trigger some creative thinking. So for producing solution ideas, we looked at SCAMPER and also force relationships. And additional tools to try that are in the publication are attribute listing and a morphological matrix, which I personally love. And back to Martha.
Okay, so now we're down to evaluating solution ideas. And I think this is one that in the past has sometimes gotten short shrift, but there's going to be some changes. And then I think they're hoping that people will pay more attention to evaluating your solution ideas. So it's really a good idea to come up with some criteria and think, okay, we've got all these ideas, which ones are better, okay, than others, okay, what, you know, we want to make a deliberate decision making, not just which ones do we feel like using, but which ones are going to have the most impact. So the first tool we're going to look at is called Paired Comparison Analysis, shortened to PCA. This tool works great when you have 4 to 6 solution ideas to evaluate. And you compare each solution idea with each other solution idea and state how much stronger it is. And then you add those strength numbers to find out which of your ideas are better than the others. So let's start with this keyword phrase. How might we promote knowledge of the outdoors? And this team came up with, okay, well, for our criteria, we want to know which one will build the most knowledge of the outdoors, which solution would have an impact on the most students, and which solution can best be sustained over time, okay, with not as much updating or maintaining and so forth. So that's their focus. Now they then came up with 5 solution ideas. Make trails into a walkthrough board game. Increase the variety of plants and then construct visual trail guides. Create a picnic area that could be used by students who've earned it through good behavior. Create learning stations based on outdoor literature. Put benches in a circle for group learning. So now we're going to use PCA, okay, to compare these ideas with each other. Let's look at what we would do first with ideas A and B. Trails as a walkthrough board game, and B, more plants with visual trail guides. So the first thing you decide is which one is better, A or B. So let's assume in this case we decided A was better, so it is circled. The next step is we have to say how much better is it going to be? Is A much better than B, only somewhat better than B, or a little better but it's a pretty close call? And you give it points based on that. So let's assume this time we decided A was somewhat better than B, so it gets 2 points. So we're going to work on this, okay, using another poll that Debbie will put up in a minute. Don't do it quite yet, okay? So in the red box where you see complete the poll, okay, the questions will look like this. Okay, number 1 is A or B. based on the criteria, which is in the red box at the top, most knowledge of the outdoors, impact students, sustain over time, which one is better and how much better? So based on what we did before, you would click on A as somewhat better. You might make a different decision. I'm going to leave this up so you can see the A, B, C, D options. And then there'll be a question for each comparison. Then number 2 will be comparing A to C, and then A to D, and then A to E, and so forth. So Debbie, you can go ahead and start the poll, and we'll give a few minutes. Don't spend too much time thinking about this, okay? But do look at the options and make your best decision. Once again, just in case you are, don't agonize over the choices, but make your best decision as quickly as you can. We're starting to get polls coming in. We have just over half. Okay, I think that we can cut it off there. We've got 23 responses.
Oh gosh.
So Lynn is going to,
God, this is going to be a task here.
well, on each one, you're just looking for which of the 6 things has the most. If there are ties, just pick one.
All right.
Okay, so what she's looking, now folks, okay, normally you would have a small group, you would be talking this over and you would reach consensus on each of these. It's not really a voting thing, but in this situation, that's the best we could do. So Lynn is going to tell me what had the most, had the most clicks for
A was somewhat better.
Okay, so A, somewhat better, 2 points. Questions?
A and C?
Yeah.
A is better, but it was a close call.
Okay, so A is better, and so this is the PCA chart here that you fill in. B to C?
Let's go A to D, go across.
Okay, yeah, okay.
So A to D, D is much better.
Okay.
And A and E, there's a tie.
Just pick one.
Okay, we'll say E is much better.
Okay. Now we don't need this last column because we don't have 6 ideas. So now we go to B to C.
B to C, C is much better.
Okay, B to D.
D is much better.
B to E.
E is somewhat better.
C to D.
We've got a tie again. Let's say D is much better.
C to E.
We've got a 3-way tie. Let's say that E is somewhat better.
And D to E.
Let's say D is somewhat better.
Okay. So once you have registered all of your which is better in points, okay, then you take a look through, and first you look at A, all the A's, and you count up how many points did A get. So it got 2 points, 1, that's 3 points. Okay, it didn't get any other points. So A has 3 points, all right? B, I don't see any B's as better, so it has 0 points. Okay, so C has 3 points here, and that is it. 3 points for C. D has 3, 6, 9, 10, 11 points. Okay, and E has 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points. So you look at the total points and then you put in the rank order. So based on this, our best option is creating learning stations out of outdoor topics. And our next one is to put benches in a circle, so small group learning activities, and that would make it flexible for teachers. Okay, then these are kind of a tie, but I'll just put a 3 and a 4. And doing the visual trail guides is last. People must not think that's very interesting. So that's how you put together PCA. And once again, as I said, it would usually be a group discussion, reaching consensus instead of a voting situation. But thank you all for participating with that. Another tool that you can use to analyze or compare 2 or 3 solution ideas, okay, is called ALOU. A is for advantages, the LO is for limitations to overcome, and the U is for unique potentials. So the example we're going to use here is the same basic one. How might we promote knowledge of the outdoors? So we're looking at the same criteria, but we're going to be looking at 2 solution ideas, the literature learning stations and the board game using trails. So you would create an ALOU chart for each of those ideas. First, for literature learning stations, okay, some advantages that you can match the curriculum to different grades. and you might be able to get more in depth with the learning stations. Some limitations might be the reading levels might not work for all students at a grade level, so you could overcome that by working with teachers. A limitation might be protecting the materials, and we could work with the tech ed to create protective containers. Unique potentials, it could be fun to find interesting literature focused on nature, and maybe it would be the starting point, and that would lead into a bigger lesson. So you would do the same thing, okay, with making trails through a board game. And you might have another one, maybe you have another one. And so by analyzing like this, your team can then discuss, okay, based on the advantages, the limitations, and how, can we overcome them? How easy will that be? What are the unique potentials that we could, get involved with and make it more exciting? So these are ways, and then, to make a decision and say, well, based on this, let's do those literature learning stations, first, and then we'll think about the board game. So for evaluate solution ideas, okay, we looked at two tools, paired comparison analysis and the ALOU tool. The additional tools that are included in the publication is, one is developing criteria. So a lot of information on how to come up with a criteria to start with and make good ones. And then the evaluation matrix, which is the grid that many of you are used to with the Global Issues Problem Solving Program.
Okay, our last step is to develop an action plan where you explain what the project intends to accomplish. So you have to determine your tasks and your timelines for implementation, what impact the action plan is going to have on your area of concern, and how well it solves your underlying problem, and consider ways to build support for possible solutions. So one tool that you can use to do this is to record specific steps to implement tasks in your action plan. So you identify the goal or activity you want to accomplish, and you determine your time frame for short, medium, and long. And you list the tasks in each. So short term might be anywhere from 1 to 2 weeks. It's always good to have something that you can accomplish within the first 24 to 48 hours. Medium term, this might be anywhere from 2 weeks to a couple of months. And long term, identify the amount of time you need to accomplish all of your goals. So we're going to try this again with improving a community park. That's our main thing, but to do that, we need to obtain the support of the town board. So that's what we're going to be focusing on. And you're going to use the chat feature again. We're going to imagine that we found out that the first time we can get on the town board's agenda is in 2 months. So that was what we did within 48 hours. But we have 2 months to plan. So in the chat, we're just going to focus on first the short term. What other short term goals or activities can you think of for obtaining support from the town board? What else do we need to do?
Contact people who will support your idea. Develop a plan. Do an analysis on the neighborhood. Put together a petition you might be able to use. Figure out what resources you might need. Okay, I'd say let's go on to medium.
Okay. All right, medium. This would be anywhere from 2 weeks to a couple of months. What do you think we'd need to be doing?
Somebody put meet with the board, but we're meeting with the board at the end of long term, by the end of 2 months. So this one, we could get all the props together. We could plan some fundraisers to use if we get permission from the board. Let's see. We could solicit bids from companies so that we would already have that information to share with the board. Write everything out so we're getting prepared. And I'd say let's move on to the long term.
Okay. So long term, by the time we go to the board to get support at the end of the 2 months, what will we need to do?
Put together our presentation. Have plans drawn up, designs drawn up. Practice our presentation. Have a backup plan. Put together your compelling argument. Have a realistic budget and examples of vendors. Okay, that's a pretty good list.
Okay, okay. So that just provides you some focus to really break down what you need to do. Okay, so here are some of the things that students thought of. They also thought of attending a board meeting to observe the process that was used and find out how much time they could have for their presentation. Group their ideas for improving the park into clusters. They were going to develop specific requests, identify the strongest reasons the board would have to support it, anticipate possible questions they might have, and develop an outline. Whoops, excuse me. Whoops. And then by the end, develop, oh my gosh.
If you click it goes.
I know, I keep touching my mouse. Develop all graphics, presentations, handouts, who's going to do what, rehearse like you said, and then present. And then they thought afterwards discuss how it went and areas for improvement. Another tool you can use is called Assisters and Resistors. And this helps you identify support you have and obstacles that you might have to overcome. So use the 5 W's and an H to identify assisters and how you can use them, and do the same for potential resistors. So here was some that kids thought of for show our veterans the respect they deserve. So assisters who, veterans and community members, they could ask for their stories, find letters and memory objects, support Veterans Day. What community groups, veterans organizations you could contact to find out how they could support. When, during school or Memorial Day, you could have a parade, cemetery ceremony, veterans could be speakers. Where, senior living facilities or school, you'd have special events to honor them. Students could visit with them there. Why? Because veterans are a part of our history. The teachers could incorporate this into their curriculum. And how we could get to know them. Students could visit them with adult chaperones, and we could connect vets with community activities. These are the resistors that they thought. Some of the who's, veterans with PTSD, and some community members might be resistive. So how to overcome, they could convince veterans that our goal is to help, not exploit them, and educate community members on the importance of the project. What was the resistor passage of time? Maybe we're losing veterans, so they thought get started as soon as possible. Delays mean we lose more information, find ways to divide tasks so we can get started earlier. There might be restrictions on visiting veterans, meet with the people in charge to explain why we want to contact the veterans. Why might some people be resistant, some might be unwilling to share. Teachers are busy. You could make the sharing stories an option for vets. You could talk to the principal, convince teachers of the importance, and so on. This is a group that actually had a big event at Lambeau Field in Green Bay to honor veterans. So to develop an action plan, we introduced sequencing with small, medium, and long-term, short, medium, and long-term, and assisters and resistors.
Okay, so this is a review overall of all of these thinking tools that are available to you. In each of the areas, from develop an area of concern through action plan, we practiced one of the tools and we explained a second tool, and you can see that there's quite a few others, okay, that might be of help to you. So each tool, even though it's listed in a certain section like action plan or underlying problem, it may not be useful only to that area. It could be useful to other areas. So one we didn't go over was futures wheel, but it could be used in area of concern, challenges, or underlying problem. WIBI to WIBNI could use looking at your area of concern, but also when you're working on your plan of action. So this chart just shows you that each of these tools, many of them can be used in a variety of ways.
And this is just to review that in community problem solving, the process is flexible. You don't necessarily need to start with challenges. You could maybe have an underlying problem in mind. Students have an underlying problem, but they're not coming up with many solutions. They go back to examine their challenges and they rework their underlying problem to cover more ground. Then they are able to generate more solution ideas. Or students might start with, they have a solution in mind. They know they want to start a recycling program, and they start to make implementation plans, but realize they don't know enough about where the needs are. So they gather further information to develop the area of concern. Or students might be working on an implementation of their action plan, but then they run into a roadblock. So they spend some time examining the challenges that are facing them, and they generate solutions to combat the roadblock. So the neat thing about community problem solving is that you go back and forth a lot between the steps. It's not just start from the beginning and work your way down to the end. So we encourage you to try the process and the tools, and that you practice, 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 which makes perfect. Problems will become manageable, and you will find solutions. And again, you can find this resource at fpspimart.org, along with many other resources for community problem solving.
Okay, so now we do have a little bit of time left, so we would be happy to have questions sent to us through the chat if you wish, and we will do our best to answer them. We're getting a lot of thank yous here, so you are welcome. See if there's any questions. When should we start working on our CmPS project for next year? Now I'm going to assume that that is Northern Hemisphere, like US sort of thing. You know, there are some teams that start in the summer if they're able to get their kids together to talk about it, okay? Otherwise, you know, you want to start as early as you can in the school year because, you know, it takes a while to think through all of these things and then to really get a plan implemented. One thing to keep in mind is if you can't get a project finished in 1 year, you can do a multi-year project. You can spread it over 2 years, but you need to have most of the same students involved. So that can be challenging. For us, at least in the US here, a lot of us aren't sure what school is going to look like in the fall. Okay. Somebody says, what did you mean by STEM in the Dancing with Words part? The STEM is just the terminology for the little phrase, how might we, or in what ways might we? That's called the STEM. And so then there's the STEM, the verb phrase, and the object, or the verb and the object.
Okay, this one is for thinking about the problem. Does it need to be related to your direct community, specific neighborhood of Chicago, or could it relate to your city in general? Your community can be your school, your neighborhood, your city, your state. It could be globally as well. So you're not restricted just to your district community.
Somebody said, any advice on sustaining and evolving projects that are going to go on for more than a year, like at least 2 years? One thing is that you can submit a project and then continue it another year and submit it again. But I think if you do that, you're actually required to redo your underlying problem in the second year. But that might be something, even if you don't submit it the first year, that you could think about, would be to revisit, okay, the second year, your overall, plans, and is this underlying problem still working for us, or do we want to modify it? Do we want to do we want to do some extra work on the process? Do we want to brainstorm more solutions? Do we want to do some analysis of what we've accomplished so far? So I think, maybe starting the second year with looking back and doing really an in-depth analysis on where are we now and where do we want to go?
Any questions?
I don't see other questions coming in. And I think people did have some time to think. So we would just like to thank you for being here, for listening to this. We will make sure that we provide the PowerPoint so that you can have that available. And best wishes on your work in community problem solving, which is a very, very exciting part of our program.
Yes, I'd like to second that, and also thank you for your great participation today. We really appreciate it. Good luck in community problem solving.
Thank you, Lynn and Martha. We appreciate that.
All righty.
Why? I was sharing a thank you to Lynn and Martha, but Debbie had me muted, so
Oh,
I can do so. Thank you so much for doing this, not only for sharing this great information, but really being able to be creative and transferring this session from a face-to-face one to a digital one. I know when we're on site and we're together and we have people at tables and we can actually practice these tools, learning about them and experiencing them is so much richer. But we appreciate you doing it digitally, because without the digital version, we wouldn't have any version. So you did a fabulous job. The flowers behind you, Lynn, are beautiful.
thank you. And it really helped us because we're going to be doing a presentation at our Gifted and Talented convention like this too. So how are things going for you?
They're going great. We're getting a lot of really tremendous entries in online. The kids have embraced technology. They're very creative in their responses. The CmPS showcase is going well. So there's a lot more positives than there's been hiccups. So we're taking that as a win. And the sessions have been tremendous. I see some familiar names on this one. We've had some really great sessions and learning today. So we're counting our positives.
Yeah, great.
You're one of them. So thank you.
Well, thank you.